Tuesday's elections decided a handful of Michigan congressional primary races that will set up competitive matchups for the general election in November. Joining us again in studio is former pollster and U of M Dearborn professor Tim Kiska to break down the election results and what happens next. Thanks for being on with us.
Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
Let's go ahead and start with one of the big races, an open U.S. Senate seat for Michigan. I feel like we've been talking about this coveted spot for quite some time. Democrat Alyssa Slotkin, Mike Rogers on the Republican side really secured their ticket. What is the outlook of this race for Michigan voters?
I mean, this is going to be a jump ball,
Yeah.
I think. I mean, if you look at it, two pros who've been around for a long, Rogers elective office for a long time, Alyssa Slotkin working in Washington for a long time. Both parties need this seat. And so I think they're going to spend a lot of money on this thing. So I think the ad sales people around here are going to be
they're going to do well, is what you're saying.
Well, it'd be like playing tuba on the day that it rained gold. You know, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I'm picking up what you're throwing down. All right, now that the primaries are over, how do you think Slotkin and Rogers shift their attention to the general election beyond the ad money?
Well, I think both of them are going to. Well, that's going to be, we don't know yet at this point. Rogers got Donald Trump's endorsement, and that was a big deal. Now, do you sort of dovetail more to the center? I don't know. I mean, see, the thing is, on this election cycle, nobody knows anything anymore.
Like who you're even trying to appeal to.
Right.
You're trying to appeal to moderates, or absolutely.
Right,
that's
exactly.
A great point.
And there was a line that went for a long time, which is that politics is played between the 40-yard lines. It's to get people on the left, 40% of them, on the right, 40%, you're going for the people, 20% in the middle. Does that work this time? I think, but I don't think anybody knows. I think we're in an entirely different ball game at this point.
Interesting perspective. Another race I want to ask you about, U.S. Representative Sri Tanadar defeated Detroit City Council member Mary Waters for the 13th Congressional District. What does that victory mean for that district and that momentum? Well,
a couple things. He spent a lot of money just to get there. I think the last numbers anybody has seen is $4.4 million as of late June. That's a lot of money. And I think something that has bothered the African-American leadership in this town for a long time, there are no African-American members of Congress from Detroit. That's not been true for 70 years. And I think that a lot of, if I were Sri Thandahar at this point, I mean, just to keep his nose above water, he had to spend a lot of money. And I have a feeling people are going to be coming back at him in 2 years. So yeah, I think he's safe right now. That district, the way it's built, is pretty much Democratic. So it would be pulling a real rabbit out of the hat if the Republicans could take this. That's probably not going to happen. But this is, keep an eye on this thing. Not so much now, but a couple years from now.
Yeah, you brought up 70 years. We focused on that quite a bit yesterday. The fact that it's been 7 decades in Detroit is just so notable and almost certain to be a big talking point moving forward. How do you think being a presidential election year impacts the local ballot races? I mean, typically we've seen more involvement, more interest, more turnout. To the benefit of who?
Well, it's first of all, I think that you're seeing presidential candidates and vice presidential candidates spending a lot of time here. I think that by the time this is over, you know, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris probably will qualify for a driver's license in Michigan. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that that's going to have a lot of impact, by the way, on the down ballot, people running for state rep, maybe in the congressional race that we just talked about in Macomb County. Bear in mind that that 10th district with John James versus Carl Marlinga.
That's a big one.
Evenly split 2 years ago. Not only that, same two guys, I think it was like a half percentage point between these two. And they're going to go back at it again. Wow.
Yeah, it's a close one. In all the years covering politics, you know, it's interesting because some election cycles, these primary elections basically determine who gets a seat. And I feel like this year, not as much. Like this year, it is down to the wire in a lot of places for a lot of candidates all the way to the general election.
A few people got knocked out. A few incumbents got knocked out, but not many.
Yeah.
I think a guy up in Petoskey. I think you just had a story a few minutes ago about a guy up in Petoskey. But we'll see. You know, we'll see what happens.
All right, Tim Kiska, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks for the invite.